All right, so we can use this same method to actually graph real-world problems. And particularly, we're usually talking about projectile problems, which means something is flying through the air. So Tyler fires an arrow from the top of his tree stand. The height of the arrow can be modeled by the function, and then there it is, where t is the time in seconds and h of t is the height of the arrow. So notice that we are graphing the height of the arrow, not the path of the arrow. Now, as it turns out, the path of the arrow is pretty similar, but it's important that you understand that we're not graphing the path of the arrow. We are graphing the height of the arrow. Okay, so let me get all my information here. So first of all, we talked about this in the last lesson. The first thing we want to do is when we've got a number in front of x squared, we want to factor it out. So I'm going to factor out that negative 16. And when I do that, I'm going to get h of t equals negative 16. All those x's in that problem should be t, so I'm going to change them here. I'm going to get t squared minus 5t minus 14 when I do that. All right, so let's start getting our information. So I'm going to factor this. So we're going to start with our x-intercepts, otherwise known as roots. So 0 equals negative 16 times t, let's see, I'm going to have minus 7 and t plus 2 in this case. So 0 equals negative 16. We know that doesn't work. T minus 7 equals 0. T plus 2 equals 0. So t equals 7 and t equals negative 2. So my x-intercepts are going to be 7, 0 and negative 2, 0. Now, if I look at my graph here, this is a first quadrant graph, so I'm not even going to have a root of negative 2, and that totally makes sense. But now what we know is that my x-axis, my t-axis, if you will, this is going to be my time, and I know I need to get at least to 7. So now I'm going to go ahead and maybe make up my scale. Okay. And now I can actually put at least one of my roots on there. My other one is not going to be on this graph, and that makes sense. And at the end, you'll see why it makes sense. Okay, so my axis of symmetry is going to be halfway between these two. And since I can't see the second one, the negative 2, I'm just going to use the formula here. So let me get my axis of symmetry. My axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a, which in this case, always go back to the original. When you're trying to get b and a, go back to the original. So in this case, b is 80. So this is going to be negative 80 over 2 times a is negative 16. Okay, now when I put that into my calculator, I get 2.5. So now I know that my axis of symmetry is x equals 2.5. So let me put that on there. 2.5, let me bring this down a little bit. All right, 2.5 is going to be right here. Okay, so there's my axis of symmetry. Okay, what next? Let's go ahead and get the vertex. I'm going to keep moving this around. Forgive me. My vertex in this case is going to be h of 2.5 equals negative 16 times 2.5 squared plus 80 times 2.5 times, not times, plus 224. So when I put that in my calculator, make sure you put all those parentheses in, I get 324. So my vertex then is 2.5, comma, 324. And what that 324 tells us is it tells us the max. So that allows me to create my scale. So on my y-axis, I know I need to get at least up to 324. So let me figure out my scale, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so what I did here was, first of all, I labeled my y-axis as the height, and then I ended up going up by 25s. So 25, 50, 75, 100, and then I continued like that. And now we know that my vertex is at 2.5, 324, which is right here. And then lastly, as we've talked about, I can get my y-intercept really, really easily here. My y-intercept, if I go back to the original, is 224. Remember, all the terms with t in them go to 0. So my y-intercept is 224, which is going to put me right here. And then again, I have one on the opposite side because of symmetry. So this is, let's see what I have here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I should have a point. 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have a point right here. Okay. So this really gives me enough to go ahead and draw the height of the arrow. So it looks like this. It comes up, curves around, and then it starts falling back to earth. There it is. And again, this is why one of the roots is not shown, because it's going to be over here somewhere, and that makes sense. To complete the parabola, we'd have to keep coming this way, but we don't. Also notice that I don't put an arrow here. This is a real world problem, so it doesn't make sense to have an arrow here. This is where it lands. Okay, so now I've got all that done. Now I can just answer these simple questions here. What is the maximum height of the arrow? Well, we know now that that comes from the vertex, and we know that that's 324 feet. At what time will the arrow hit the ground? Well, the arrow hits the ground right there, and that's at 7 seconds. So we know that the arrow is going to hit the ground at 7 seconds. Our x-intercepts give us that information. And then the last thing is, how tall is Tyler's tree stand? Well, the tree stand is where he shot the arrow. So his tree stand, the height of it is right here. This is where he shot the arrow. So the y-intercept tells us that the tree stand is 224 feet tall. Or is it feet or is it inches? We have to go back to the beginning. Oh, it's inches. So I need to fix all of these. Make sure you pay attention. This is going to be inches and this is going to be inches. So we need to make sure that we pay attention to the directions. So I'll fix those, and then you can go practice.